This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I'm your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Lawrence Armstrong, who is chairman of Ware Malcomb and author of the upcoming book, Layered Leadership, an essential guide for leaders seeking to drive innovation and growth by using both sides of the brain. Lawrence has spent decades scaling Ware Malcomb into one of North America's top design firms, blending artistic insight with strategic prowess to deliver consistent success. His impact in the architecture industry has earned him recognition as a top 25 most influential architect, and his commitment to inspiring new generations of leaders has made him a sought-after speaker and mentor in both business and creative circles. Lawrence's journey from internationally exhibited visual artist to influential architect and business leader offers a powerful roadmap for leaders at every level. In Layered Leadership, he has shown how harnessing creativity and strategic execution can transform teams, enhance resilience, and foster a culture of innovation and profitability. His art world experience and architectural dominance provide unique insights into how leaders can build, adapt, and lead with a visionary approach. So, Larry, welcome to the program. It's nice to have you on today. I appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on, Steve. I look forward to our conversation.
Well, it's when this came across my screen, I was intrigued because both sides of the brain. I love that thinking that way. I'm an ex-CEO and I think of myself as a right brain thinker, and so a lot of CEOs are left brain thinkers, and so you definitely have that artistic side. So I would assume you're maybe more dominant right brain thinker, but also left brain as well.
Yeah, so I just think it's important. We're in a unique business, the design industry, in architecture and design. So we tend to be creative people, but I also think it's great to have a solid uh, business and mind for business. And so I'm an advocate of developing both sides of your brain as much as possible.
Yeah. For sure. So now let's talk a little bit about the company. So now I understand that Bill Ware and Bill Malcolm were founders of the original company, and I take it from what the research I did that you actually worked in that firm under them, and then had the opportunity to purchase it from them. So tell us a little bit about why you did that, and what the business was like then, and what it is like today.
Sure, thanks. Well, yeah, Bill and Bill established a very strong architectural practice here in Southern California in the early 70s and grew a great reputation for being experts in commercial real estate, industrial and office buildings. Um, and most of our clients at that time were speculative office and industrial developers. And so we became experts at that sort of work here in Southern California. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be hired by Bill and Bill in 1984 and worked as a designer at the company for a couple of years and became project manager and took on lots of projects and teams that I was directing. And then I was given the opportunity to open an office for us. We had an office, our main office is in Irvine, California, in Orange County. And we had opened a San Diego office, and I was given the opportunity to go up and open an office in LA, in the San Fernando Valley, for our company. And so that was just a great opportunity for me and big learning experience. And I built that office for several years, and then uh, Bill and Bill decided they wanted to start transitioning the company and step back and eventually retire. So uh, I was invited to come back to Irvine, as well as my uh, our other partner Jim Williams, and we both moved back to Irvine and were given the opportunity to purchase the company from Bill and Bill, and so we did that and took over the company in 1992. And
Okay. And at that time, there were what, three offices? Is that right?
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. And when you became the CEO of the company, then you grew that to what it currently is now. I think there's 24 offices, if that's right. Um, is it correct?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it might be 26, but yeah.
Okay, okay,
Uh,
26. And it's also international too. You have offices in other parts of the world besides the United States.
yeah, so we strategically expanded our company geographically and by product type over the years. And so we're all over the US, and we have three offices in Canada, and we have two offices in Mexico, and an office in Brazil as well.
No, that's amazing. So, and how many employees total company wide would you say you have now?
It's in the 700s,
Yeah,
thereabouts. Yeah.
yeah, that's impressive growth. That's awesome. Now you're an architect, you're an artist, you're a sculptor. I might even say, if I can see behind you there and see those amazing guitars on the wall, you might be a musician. So tell us a little bit about those parts of your life.
Yeah. So, well, obviously, I'm an architect. I trained, went to Kent State University and got my degree, and I've been very fortunate in my career as an architect. And I've always been an artist as well. I've only begun showing my work over the last mm, 15, 12, 14 years, something like that.
Okay.
And so I've been very fortunate with that too. I've been given the opportunity to show all over the US and Europe. And so we're constantly busy with art shows and exhibits. And my work is primarily very abstract, modern work. And so, um,
And you say show and galleries and so on. Do you also sell your works? Is it a
yes,
revenue producer for you?
yeah, it's all my work is for sale. And I've done several commissions as well as sold some work over time. And yeah, so that's, you know,
Okay. And are you a guitar player?
well, I was at one time in my life. I mean, the guitars, I love them, and I played when I was younger, and it's just one of those things that I haven't made time for in the last few years, but I still
Yeah.
like having them.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Well, you were the CEO for 28 years, I believe, and now you're the chairman of the company. So tell us a little bit about why that transition and what your role is now in the company.
Yeah, so and as in the book, I spent some time on this. I've always sort of felt that it's very important to have a succession plan. Um, and so we've worked hard on those type of things in our company over the years, um, training and mentoring people up so that they're ready to take the next step in their careers. And so, yeah, I spent several years getting that ready to go with the up and coming awesome people we have. And so we planned for it for several years, and then we started executing, and I transitioned uh, basically January 1st, 2020 to the chairman role. And I appointed a new CEO and a new president, and it's going great. I'm in a 10-year buyout, and reducing my time each year a little bit with
Yeah.
the company, and serving as chairman, and it's been really a great process and a great transition.
Well, it's really intriguing to me that, again, as we think of a CEO position and you grew that company 40 times. I mean, you really leveraged it and maybe not leveraged it, but scaled it and, really built this amazing company. And most people would think that an artist, probably isn't, uh, you, isn't the normal path then to become a CEO. So tell me what being an artist, how do you think that made you a better CEO?
Yeah, I think, and I say this a lot, that being an artist made me a better CEO, and being a CEO made me a better artist. And I think just because you have, unbridled creativity when you're an artist, you don't really have a lot of parameters that you have to be governed by. And when you're an architect and a business leader, you have all kinds of parameters you have to try to um, satisfy. And and so bringing creativity to the position, I think really helps, with strategy and long-term thinking and mentoring people and really the whole thing. And, I like to say we sort of synthesized a lot of um, inspirations, I guess, I've had over the year that came from a lot of different sources into our strategy uh, that we were able to adapt to make us successful.
Yeah, yeah. And you've also kind of stated that I think that you want this to be a legacy company. I mean, you took it over from the two founders and then you ran it for all those years. And now it sounds like you're being bought out by people that are still in the company. So do you see this as a legacy company that just continues on with the next generation and evolves into something different or continue the same course, would you say?
Yeah, that's the idea, I think, is to um, and a big part of our culture is to continue to develop our people so that the pipeline is full of people that can take over the company and run it and take it where they think it should go based on the times, um, as opposed to try to sell our company. I think
Yeah.
it's a different path and one we've worked hard on.
Yeah, yeah, that's impressive. Now, and looking at, you've done so many buildings over the years in all parts of the world, and I focused on one. If you haven't figured out yet, I'm intrigued with guitars. I play guitar myself, so I think you did you do Fender guitars, their work management area?
Yeah, so yeah, my guitars are a combination of the one I had when I was 12 years old, the one I bought when we had a nice year when I was still playing guitar, and then the Fender Stratocaster and the amp
Yeah,
came from when we designed the Fender World Headquarters in Scottsdale several years ago. Yeah,
yeah,
it was a cool assignment and a great project for the company.
yeah. I bet that's one that you probably said, I'm going to lead on this one. I have an interest here.
Yeah, I have. It was a great project. It was led by our Phoenix office, and I. Uh, but it was an important project and certainly a prestigious project for our company.
Yeah, that's great. And I also noticed that you did specialized cycles as well. As one as
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, we've had so many really interesting clients over the years. Been very fortunate. We work for a large percentage of the Fortune 500 and all kinds of entrepreneurial companies as they've built their own businesses.
and in doing research for this, it seems like you have a real collaborative approach. You believe in building that team and getting diverse opinions. So just tell me your strategy on what works well and architects. They're artists in their own right, and they're probably have some egos involved, and probably have some their own ideas. And so, how do you get everybody on the same page and work together as a team?
Yeah, they're well, definitely creative people have strong opinions, and that's part of the strength of our company. But we do, with all these offices and the different services we provide, um, we have a lot of people that need to collaborate effectively to be successful for our clients. And so we really have adapted from early times a one team attitude. And so we all work together and we support each other across the platform and offer help and expertise wherever it's needed for the benefit of our clients. And we really emphasize that idea over the years as a big part of our culture, is this sort of one team integrated company attitude.
And as you build that team and you communicate well, communication is key, obviously. And the way I talk and get to an artist or an architect may be very different language or very different approach than more of a left brain thinker. And so, how do you make sure that you have a diverse group of people and that you can communicate with them all effectively?
Yeah, we spend some time on that. We first of all we have a lot of collaboration purposely among across the company, whether it's um, specialty groups across the company that specialize in either the architecture or the interior side or civil engineering that work together and collaborate. On project teams, it's very important that we establish that team attitude from the beginning. We have leadership meetings 3 times a year where we fly all the leaders out and we have an all-day conference where we, are really on making sure we're on the same page in terms of strategies and getting different points of view that we can implement into our company. And so I kind of call it in the book, I came up with a metaphor. We're kind of a fleet of ships. We're a bunch of different people and different groups and business groups and offices, but we all have to be going the same direction. And but we're a group of ships so that we can turn quickly with each other all the same way, as opposed to a big ocean liner that takes forever to make changes and adapt. And so we've worked hard to emphasize sort of those ideas over time. And we have
Yeah.
centralized resources too that help all the offices. So we're all trying to be as consistent as possible in delivering our services.
So, not being an architect myself, tell me a little bit about, it would appear to me that an architect probably is somebody who has that right and left brain capacity because obviously the right brain, you're going to have the design piece and the creative piece and all that. But then on the left side, you've got to, you got to draw it to scale. You've got to have the measurements. You've got to have all that analytical side to support that. Um, would you say that most architects kind of do have that ability to go both right and left brain?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think it's some are more design oriented, some are more technical oriented, but I think we're trained in that sort of whole brain idea. And you've got to have some math skills. You've got to understand some structural engineering when you're working with your structural engineer and your mechanical engineer, and so you have to have some sort of technical ability. But obviously the creative and design side is there too. And the design side, the creative side isn't just about the design, it's also about problem solving because you come up against all kinds of challenges throughout a project when you're designing and building a building.
Yeah. It's interesting to me too that, I saw that you said before that you tried to turn the company into a leadership academy. So even though we're talking about design and creativity and all that, it sounds like you still believe that, to have a successful company that runs well, you need leaders and you need to develop leaders within that company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge part of our company, sort of the idea of the Leadership Academy. We have developed over time multiple programs that we implement to help people build their careers and become leaders and become more effective leaders, in mentoring and coaching and different, uh, again, a lot of the concepts we implement directly to the leadership group and have them implement across the platform. So we're always talking about, mentoring up your successor, building a group of leaders, because we have a need. The company has a need as it grows to have strong leaders, to run offices, to run business groups, to run our enterprise teams, the whole thing. Yeah, so we need a lot of leadership development, and we spend a lot of time on that.
So is that something you do internally, just with the people you have that have an interest in that, or do you bring outside sources in to help you get there?
Yeah, we've over time we kind of do both. A lot of it happens internally, and we also at times have brought in independent coaches from the outside to specifically help with some of our executives.
And part of that program too is not only you have the emerging leader program and you have the mentoring program, the coaching programs that you talked about, but you also kind of promote um, kind of the societal program too, in the sense of, community and working within the communities you work with and giving back to the community as well.
Yeah, that's a very important part of our project, our process too, in our company is that we have a belief that our communities support us, our company, in being successful. And so wherever we are, wherever we have an office, we're being successful, and we should repay that by helping our community as well. And so we feel that's an obligation, and our people get excited about helping the community. So we've done that consistently for many, many years now.
And I think I saw somewhere too where you kind of have a 50-year tagline, that you promote that includes that, correct?
Yes, yeah, we in fact, I think it was on our 50th anniversary, we made sure we designated 50 nonprofits to help across the company in that particular year, and um, and then we have our big ones we have supported for many, many years
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's impressive. So I know that the title of your new book is called Layers, and you talk a lot about layers, not only in art but in architecture and leadership. So just kind of tell us what is the philosophy or the foundation for that term that you use called layers?
Yeah, so layers it just sort of describes the way I think about the world and I perceive the world, which, architects are sort of trained in layers, but I perceive, time and space um, in layers. So, in this, I like to talk about it in terms of space, out if you're in like I'm in my office right now, and there's a layer of trees over here and a railing and the exterior deck and then the glass and then the space we're in, um, and it works in three dimensions, um, sort of natural and built space. And then lighting, there's layers of light and shadow. In your studio, in my studio, there's layers of sound, background noise, you and I talking right now, but also there's some background noise over here, probably over there at your place. There's layers of thought and emotion in any situation you're in between people. So it's a very conceptual kind of an idea. I notice it in everywhere I go, in music and in any space or ambient setting. Um, and so my art is an expression, very abstract, of layers. So I've explored it in many different ways, um, how to manifest that idea. And so when you want to apply it to the concepts of building a company, again, we've taken lots of sort of disparate types of input and adapted it to strategies in our company to build our company. And, things like being influenced by Leonardo da Vinci, which was he was the ultimate whole brain thinker, to, you know, uh, high school physics class in the visible light spectrum, which we used as a metaphor to diversify our company strategically. Um, the Roadrunner and the Coyote used them as a metaphor to how to balance, business development versus operations of a company. Um, you know, um, Talking about succession, talking about teamwork and mentorship, talking about studying other businesses, and why competitors might have done well or failed. So there's all kinds of concepts in the book, and we've layered them together to form some of the strategies by which we built the company. And so layered leadership um, uh, is the name of the book, and that's where it comes from.
And you mentioned Leonardo da Vinci, and you said whole brain thinker or whole brain concept. So, um, what does that mean? What was it about Leonardo da Vinci that was that whole brain idea that you just brought up?
Well, Leonardo was relentlessly curious about pretty much everything. Um, you think of him as an artist, but he was also a great military engineer. He designed all kinds of military machines. He designed lots of, you know, he was an architect, designed, buildings. He designed cities, waterways, all kinds of things. He, studied um, behind, he made studies of the human body, the human form, as well as all kinds of animals that, he expressed in his paintings. He kept himself in great shape. He was a good business development person. He made great relationships with his clients. So he was always studying and curious about uh, something and building his knowledge in all ways, and definitely used his entire brain.
Yeah.
He set a
Uh,
great example for us.
yeah, for sure, and an amazing accomplishments of him. I think you also studied abroad in Florence, Italy, as a student. What effect did that have on you as an artist and as a future business owner?
Yeah, it was fantastic because I, well, it was just sort of expands your mind when you're given that opportunity at a young age, to go and study in a totally different country, especially in Florence, the birth of the Renaissance. And so, um, certainly I'd been aware of Da Vinci before I went, but that was where I really kind of was influenced by him and his work, and all the masters actually. So that was just a really great experience, experiencing a different culture, learning about art and architecture and the Renaissance, and really, I think, expanded the way I thought at a young age.
So I can imagine you go there as a student. You're already an artist. You already have done some things, and then you get very inspired. Why not be a lifelong artist and just do that? What drove you to go the business route as well?
Yeah, well, I think that I mean, part of it was practical, I guess. It's you want to build a career that you can actually live on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was part of it. But I was also, from a very early age, very interested in architecture. I was lucky enough, my parents built a house when we were young, and that whole process of building a house really inspired me. And after that, I, you know, would crawl all over construction sites anytime I had a chance. And so I was very interested in being an architect, even though I didn't know what that was from a very early age, probably when I was 5 years old.
And what's your feeling now and the architecture that we have in today's times? I mean, we look at that Renaissance architecture and just are in awe, and it's so beautiful and whatever. Do you think that we're having similar impacts on our society with what we're designing now? And 100, 200, 300 years down the road, people will look back at that and say how amazing that was? Or do you think we're as creative as we used to be?
I do think the creativity is there. I think that, it's just different. Everything's more, we have computers, we have software, we have different technology to build buildings um, that, so much faster, right? Obviously, than they were, you know, uh, instead of taking hundreds of years to build a cathedral, right? We're building buildings um, very quickly. And we're learning obviously more and more about the environment and trying to respond uh, to that as well in the technologies we use to build the buildings. The styles continue to evolve, and sometimes they're very faddish, and sometimes they'll stand the test of time. Um, but I think it's a natural evolution. The one thing I will say, I do kind of make fun of our profession a little bit is that, the Romans built in concrete and we're still building in concrete. So in some ways we've progressed, and in some ways, um, maybe we had a good solution a long time ago and we haven't been able to improve on it.
Interesting. Have you ever been to Peru? Have you ever seen the Inca, structures that they put together with, without mortar and all that? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I am aware of it. I've not personally been to that. I've traveled a lot, but I haven't been there yet. So.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. So, you also, I saw that you said too that when you have all these multiple facilities, multiple locations, kind of around the world, that you always strive to kind of stay integrated. So, as a CEO myself who had multiple locations in multiple places, that's a hard thing to do to keep everybody connected and integrated. So, how did you do it? What was your philosophy?
Well, like I said, the part of it is the fleet of ships philosophy, where we try to be consistent in terms of how we're going to deliver services and our whole philosophy towards design and client service. And then, just the way we built the company was in a very integrated way. Um, the offices are not 100% standalone. They rely on central services. So production and accounting and marketing and IT and things like that are not in one place, but they're in a few hubs that service the whole company, and it keeps us connected practically. We have to work together every day to support each other, and really it's just an emphasis on the idea, on the concept of one team that we kind of hammer away at all the time, and in practice and in philosophy. And so we try to get a lot of input from around the company when we're you know changing a policy or implementing how we're going to do something, and then we like to get the input and then make a decision, and then we spread out across the company what we're going to do, and we ask that it be consistent so that when we have clients who utilize our services in multiple locations, it can be consistent, and they can count on it.
And how do you deal with the international offices? I mean, I'm sure there's some cultural things and there's certain ways of talking and having relationships and whatever that may be a little different. How do you make sure that you're sensitive to those?
Yeah, absolutely. And really, the different countries uh, are that's definitely clearly important, obviously, and we want to embrace the local culture wherever we are. But even within the US, I mean, there are cultural differences around the country. And so I think that, the idea is that, it's not a rigid system, it's a philosophy. And so we want to be, obviously deliver the best customer service we can to our clients and respond to local design, um, you know, philosophies and you have to anyway. I mean, different building codes, different laws, labor laws are different, building codes are different, and of course you have to respond and respect all those things.
So, in your Leadership Academy approach, I would assume that probably what you're saying there is that we're not all leaders. Not all of us know how to lead from day one. It needs to be taught. It needs to be nurtured. So, um, uh, I'm intrigued that you see that and you've done that for many years. So, tell me just about how important you think that is.
Well, it's huge. And the reason we spend so much time on it is, um, you go to college, and this isn't just true for our profession, but probably for many others. You go to college and you learn your profession. And, if you're successful, you come out and you build a career and you're, a good architect, for example. You didn't necessarily learn how to be a leader or manage people, and so if you're good at what you're doing and you get promoted, all of a sudden you're managing people.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't had any training in how to do that, I mean, some people have natural ability, but even so, you need some training and some guidance and some mentoring. So, given, the ambitions of our company, and the number of leaders we need to make it function correctly, it seemed natural that we should focus on this idea and build our leaders. And really, I credit Jack Welch from GE on this because he built his. I mean, he had a great leadership academy philosophy in building GE, and took a lot of cues from him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you said that you're upstairs in your office in the home that you designed and built, and I
Mhm.
think right below you is an art studio.
It is.
And so, are you spending a lot more time in the art studio now than you did in the past?
Yeah, definitely. I think that and that was the idea, obviously, as I sort of reduce my time at the company and I ramping up on other pursuits such as the art, spending more time in the studio. I'm also spending a little bit more time on the philanthropy stuff. And of course, I wrote this book. So, yeah.
So, are you an artist that goes to the studio because you want to, and then you create something, or are you sitting up in your office and you're inspired, so you run down to the studio to create it?
I'd say it comes from inspiration. So I'm not down there every day. Um, but what happens is randomly I'll be inspired. I call it a flash of light. I could be anywhere, um, and get an inspiration and sketch it, put it in my sketchbook, and then the first opportunity I have, I'll go into the studio and start making a series based on that sketch. And so when I'm inspired and when I have a series I want to do, I'm down there. Um, but I'm not down there every day because I've got all this other stuff going on too.
When did you get discovered? I mean, you said that you had your stuff in galleries, in the U.S. and Europe, and now you're selling your stuff. I imagine as an artist, you're doing a lot of stuff and no one's paying attention, and then all of a sudden you get discovered, let's say. So when did that happen, and what was that like?
Yeah, I gosh, I was encouraged, you know, by I think one of my partners and my wife, of course, Sandy. I'd been doing more and more art, um, and the whole idea of that was that preparing for this eventuality, trying to get ready that what am I going to do? I didn't want to just retire and not have a plan. So I wanted to have a plan. So I started, spending some more time on the art, especially once the kids were out of the house. We were empty nesters. And I had a little bit more time. And, I I knew some people in the neighborhood that, around town that, had some art connections, I guess. And, I would got an opportunity to show some art. And, the first time's really kind of nerve wracking. And then after that, you
Hmm.
sort of get over it. And then I decided to start showing it on social media, and I built a website and all this kind of stuff. And then galleries kind of found me, I guess, is how it happened. I didn't, I haven't had time, and I haven't ever really um, done reach out to galleries or anything. They've all found me either online, or they saw an exhibit somewhere and contacted me. And so I've been really lucky, I guess, in that way, that it's kind of built organically over the years. And now I have some great relationships with gallery owners and curators, and it's been really pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. With so many areas of interest, the demand on your time, whether you're the CEO, you're an architect, you're this artist, you have your philanthropy work, there's a lot of things going on there, How did you balance it all with, your creativity, your work, your family?
Yeah, I I'm a big believer in balance. you know. I've made some mistakes in the past where I was out of balance, and it wasn't the healthiest thing. And so I've just always tried to focus on having sort of this multifaceted life where, I try not to be a workaholic, so that I can focus on other things when I'm not at the office. And, uh, and I do have a lot, I'm lucky I do have a lot of interests. So I just sort of try to pursue those uh, that interest me and that I'm inspired by, and try to always keep a balance. And that includes on the health side too. I've got some stuff in the book about, you know, staying healthy and working out and finding your routine to fit that into your schedule as well. So all of that's really important, I think. It helps you be better at what you do if you can stay balanced and have different interests.
Yeah, for sure. I know that one of the projects that you have taken up in your philanthropy is homelessness in your community, and so tell us a little bit about what you're doing there and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a complicated issue, as you know. Um, so I guess where it started was I was as we came out of the Great Recession. I just noticed as I was traveling around Southern California, going to client meetings and job sites and that sort of stuff. I just saw more and more and more tents, and the economy was getting better, but there were more tents. And we as a company, and us, we personally have had a long-standing relationship with Orange County United Way. We've supported them for years. And so I just called them up and I said, what are we doing about homelessness in Orange County? And so I had done a bunch of research about what the problems were, and what causes homelessness, and where it had maybe there'd been some success in reducing homelessness. And so I ended up working with United Way on it, and they invited me to join the board and work on it. And then we together invented a program here in Orange County called United to End Homelessness. And so, we did a cost study to understand where the gaps were in services here in Orange County. And we uh, brought on a leadership council, which was 50 people, faith leaders, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, government leaders, to brainstorm what we could do and what we would do. And so we ended up with a landlord incentive program where we work with apartment landlords and pair them with people that have vouchers awarded by HUD to get into a home. And we designed Welcome Home OC basically to house people. And So we did, that was in 2018, and so far we've housed over 1,100 people in Orange County. And so we got a long way to go, but we've
Wow,
some significant progress at the same time too.
that sounds amazing. Do you think it's that's a problem all over our country, and do you think it's scalable? Do you think you can expand it outside of Orange County, or is it just too big a problem? You just need to focus on your community.
Well, every community has, a little different, obviously. And so what we're trying to do is just get as far as we can on it here and um, offer to anyone who's interested help in, guidance as to what's worked for us here. And we've done that many times. And when we started, we likewise got some advice from some people down in Orlando, Florida, that had some success. And so, yeah, just trying to set an example and do the best we can here for our community, and then share our what's worked with other communities.
Yeah. As an architect, someone who, as we said earlier, has designed your own home, built your own home, this episode is going to be published, quite a few weeks down the road. So, but as we speak today, Los Angeles is burning.
Mhm.
And from your perspective, again, you're in Orange County, which is a little south of what's going on, but yet that has to be really scary, not only as a resident of greater Los Angeles area, but as an architect and seeing people's dream homes go up in smoke and whatever. That's just got to be really tough.
It is. It's very tough to watch and to experience, have some. I know we certainly all here know people that have lost their homes. Our some employees in our LA office have been affected by evacuations. And so, yeah, it's just, it's a tragedy, and something we've got to work on to have a better response in the future, because it's just, you can't control nature, but you can have better systems in place, I think, to help. So it's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
And
it's tough right now.
oh, it's crazy, and the enormity of it. When you look at the pictures, I mean, it's one thing to go in and rebuild if there's been destruction, from some things, but when you look at the enormity of it, just like in the Pacific Palisades, it's like,
Yeah.
gosh, how do you even start? I mean, as an architect and someone who's done this, you probably have a better idea than most of us, but it seems almost unimaginable, overwhelming.
It is a bit overwhelming, and it's going to be, years to put this whole thing back together some in some way. So yeah, that remains to be seen.
Yeah. Well, Larry, in anticipation of our discussion today, is there anything that I haven't asked or I haven't covered that you'd like to get in the program today?
Oh, well, the book, Layered Leadership, is being published March 4th. So
Okay,
we
great.
want to talk about that. And
Yeah, for sure.
it's already up on all the major platforms for pre-order. And so you can pre-order it now, and you'll be able to order it on March 4th.
How was the process as an artist who, has that creative side and you start something, then you finish it? I would imagine, since I haven't done it myself, but writing a book, there is the creative side, but there's also the get her done side. Was it a process you enjoyed, or was it torturous?
No, it was very enjoyable. Obviously, I hadn't written a book before, so it was a big learning experience for me. I had really no idea. I mean, you're pretty naive when you start a project like this and not really knowing what's,
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
but I had an amazing ghostwriter, Herb Schaffner, who we worked together very closely, and it was very iterative. So in that way, and the creative way of organizing it and how we're going to tell stories, um, and then the back and forth on editing, and it was very iterative, which is similar to architecture. You're always revising and updating and changing, and so the whole process of writing it and then working with the publisher, Ben Bella Books, which have been amazing, all the editing back and forth and the design and the art, they go in the book, and I've got my art all through the book, which is kind of fun. And the whole process has been um, really fun and amazing, and another great learning experience.
Well, it's probably not fair to ask you at this point in the process, but so do you think there's another book in there? I mean, you've got so much to share in the architecture world, the art world, leadership as you've, just releasing that book. What do you think? You got another one in you?
Yeah, so people keep asking me that, and my response is when you're about to have a baby, you're really not thinking about having the next
Yeah, that's for sure.
one.
That is
So,
for sure.
so I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen if I've got another idea that I want to talk about, and if I've got the motivation to do it. So we'll see.
Well, you've got a little bit more time now, so you've got that. But maybe you can pick up that Stratocaster off the wall and get a little more time playing. Get back. There's still time. You can still, start a band.
You never know. I might get back to that. Yeah, that's why they're hanging there with the idea that maybe one day I will.
That's awesome. Well, Larry, at this point in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question, and that question is, in relation to leadership, what is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
Hmm. Well, I always try to say just try to relax a little bit, because that's one of my weaknesses. I've had to teach myself to relax a little bit. But I think that people um, have amazing ideas, and they're very creative. Even when people don't think they're creative, I do think they are. And so I think listening is a big part of leadership.
Yeah, that is for sure. I think it is impressive too with what you've accomplished because, as you just said, there's a lot of people that are creative and there's a lot of people that have great ideas, but then there's a small part of people above that that then can turn it into something that is successful and scalable and brings other people along. And I think that's a skill that we don't always appreciate as much because and I know many, many people that have just tons of talent, but just, never take it anywhere because they just can't, they can't get it out to the masses and get it to where more people see it.
That's right. And that's kind of why I'm a big proponent of continuous learning all the time, because there's always something you can learn and do better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Larry, this has been a complete pleasure. I was very intrigued by your story, and I love how you think about these things. And I can't wait till the book is published. I'm definitely going to check it out, and I hope the listeners on this program will as well. And it's just really interesting to me how you've taken kind of both sides of the brain, as you said, as we said at the get-go, and put them together. And again, that's that well-rounded, as you said, Leonardo da Vinci, whole brain thinking that I think produces the most amazing things. So I appreciate you sharing this with us. And it sounds like you've had a wonderful career and got a lot more in the tank, at least in the art and sculptor world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And gosh, I really appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed uh, talking to you today, Steve, and good luck with everything.
Okay, well, thank you. I hope we run into each other down the road sometime.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.